Ever thought a housing crash is like winning the lottery? Imagine a dream mansion, yours for mere pennies on the dollar. Well, let's reel it back in a bit, folks. Those pennies might not be as plentiful as you think. Welcome to Reality Check. Here we sift fact from fiction, and today we're debunking a big one. The myth that a housing crash is your golden ticket to homeownership. You see, the internet loves to tell tales of housing crashes leading to rainfalls of cheap houses. It's as probable as stumbling upon a unicorn, riding a dragon, and juggling chainsaws all at the same time. And those so-called experts who promise that a crash will make homes as cheap as dirt, they conveniently forget to mention that even dirt ain't cheap if you can't afford it. So let's get real about housing crashes. Spoiler alert, it doesn't automatically mean you'll be a homeowner. The internet promises houses falling into your lap after a crash. Kinda like expecting to find a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. It's a lovely thought, but let's face it, the odds are about as good as your pet cat learning to tap dance. Sure, the housing market has its ups and downs, but a crash isn't exactly a golden ticket to homeownership. It's more like a ticket to a roller coaster ride. It's thrilling, it's scary, and you're not quite sure if you'll come out of it with your lunch intact. You might be picturing a housing crash as a grand clearance sale, where all the mansions and penthouses are marked down to bargain bin prices. But the reality? It's more like a thrift shop after a rush sale. The best stuff is already gone, and what's left is either out of your budget or not quite what you were dreaming of. And here's the kicker. Even with lower prices, a house is still a major purchase. It's like seeing a luxury car on sale. Sure, it's cheaper than usual, but if you can't afford it in the first place, it's still out of reach. So remember, even a dirt cheap house isn't much use if you can't afford the dirt. A housing crash isn't a fairy godmother. You see, folks, the reality of a housing crash is often far from the idyllic dream many imagine. Sure, prices may drop, but the economic repercussions are far-reaching and typically not in your favor. Consider job losses. When the housing market crashes, it's often a symptom of a struggling economy. Unemployment rises, businesses shutter, and financial security becomes a luxury for many. In this environment, even if housing prices plummet, it's a cold comfort for those grappling with job loss or reduced income. And then there's the fierce competition. A housing crash doesn't mean everyone else is sitting on the sidelines. Quite the contrary. Investors with deep pockets are often waiting for such opportunities. They swoop in, snapping up properties left and right, leaving the average homebuyer out in the cold. It's a jungle out there where the fittest and richest survive. But let's say, hypothetically, you've got a secure job, and you're ready to brave the competition. There's still one more hurdle: financing. In a crashed market, lenders often tighten their purse strings. They become more cautious, more selective. Your dream home might be within reach, but the mortgage approval? That's a whole different ballgame. You see, a housing crash isn't a magic wand that instantly makes homeownership accessible to all. It's a complex situation, fraught with its own set of challenges. It's not about snagging a mansion for pennies on the dollar. It's about navigating an unpredictable market, weathering economic storms, and grappling with increased competition and stricter lending standards. So remember, even in a housing crash, there are no easy shortcuts to homeownership. It's a journey, often uphill, that requires financial stability, savvy decision-making, and a good dose of patience. And while a market downturn might offer opportunities, it also brings its share of risks and obstacles. A housing crash isn't a fairy godmother. It's job losses, fierce competition, and financing nightmares. Don't fall for the fairy tale. Understand the reality. Don't wait for a crash. It's a chant that should be echoing in the minds of prospective homeowners across the globe. So if we're not waiting for a market crash, then what? Well, let's dive into some alternative paths to homeownership, shall we? First up, we have the budget-savvy approach. This is all about living within your means and saving diligently. It's not about pinching pennies till they scream, but rather making smart decisions with your money. Think of it as a financial diet. Less impulse buying, more strategic saving, and just like a good diet, it's about long-term commitment, not a quick fix. Next on our list, we have exploring options. There's a buffet of homeownership opportunities out there, and it's not just about traditional mortgages. Ever heard of rent-to-own agreements, housing co-ops, or shared equity schemes? These are all viable alternatives that can make homeownership a reality, even if you're not swimming in gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. And finally, we have seeking professional guidance. Now, this isn't about hiring a guru who lives on a mountaintop. It's about finding a financial advisor or a real estate professional who can guide you through the complexities of the housing market. They can help you understand your financial situation, navigate the various homeownership options, and even negotiate better deals. So, ditch the idea that a crash is your golden ticket to homeownership. Instead, focus on being budget savvy, exploring all your options, and seeking professional guidance. These paths may not be as dramatic as a market crash, but they're more reliable, manageable, and let's face it, less stressful. Remember, homeownership isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about planning, patience, and persistence. So, lace up your running shoes and get ready to take on the race at your own pace. Be budget savvy, explore options, and seek professional guidance. Because in the end, homeownership is a journey, and sometimes, the alternative paths can lead you to the most beautiful destinations. Waiting for a crash won't make you a millionaire. Picture this. Our friend Joe here, fixated on the housing market like a hawk on a mouse, waiting for the perfect moment to swoop in and grab his dream house at a bargain price. Now, meet Sally. She's been proactive, saving, budgeting, and working with a financial advisor to make her homeownership dreams a reality. Joe's strategy is like waiting for lightning to strike. Sure, it might happen, but chances are he'll just get wet. And while he's waiting, Sally's already hosting housewarming parties and enjoying the comfort of her own home. Let's not forget our friend Crash. Yes, you heard that right. He's been waiting for a crash since the 90s. We've seen the Berlin Wall fall, Y2K, the birth of the internet, and even the rise and fall of fidget spinners. But Crash is still waiting. He's got a tent, a thermos, and a whole lot of patience. But sadly, no house. See, waiting for a crash is like waiting for a bus in the Sahara. It might come, but boy, you'll be waiting a long time. And while you're waiting, life is passing you by. Homeownership is a journey, not a destination. And the journey starts with you, not the market. Don't be like Joe or Crash. Be proactive and take control. Market fluctuations are normal. It's a simple statement, but one that often gets lost in the whirlwind of sensational headlines and doomsday predictions. The housing market, like any market, is subject to the ebb and flow of economic tides. It rises, it falls, and yes, sometimes it crashes. But what's crucial to remember is that these fluctuations are not only normal, but also temporary. Imagine for a moment that you're on a roller coaster. There are ups and downs, twists and turns, and sometimes you might even go upside down. But despite all these changes, you know that the ride will eventually level out and come to a stop. The same principle applies to the housing market. It's a roller coaster ride, and while some drops may be steeper than others, it's important to keep your eyes on the horizon and not get caught up in the temporary dips and dives. It's easy to get swept up in the drama of a market crash, or be enticed by the promise of dirt-cheap houses. But focusing on these short-term trends can often lead to rash decisions and missed opportunities. Instead, potential homeowners should focus on long-term benefits. Look at the overall trajectory of the housing market and assess your personal financial situation. Don't let the fear of a crash or the allure of a bargain cloud your judgment. Remember, buying a home is not just a financial investment, it's a life investment. It's about creating a space for yourself and your family, building equity over time, and laying down roots in a community. These are the benefits that really matter, and they can't be measured by short-term market trends. So, the next time you see a headline about a market crash or a sudden spike in housing prices, take a moment to breathe. Remember that these fluctuations are normal, that the market will level out eventually, and that the real value of homeownership lies in the long-term benefits it provides. Focus on long-term benefits, not short-term trends. Because at the end of the day, your home is more than just a financial asset. It's a place of comfort, of memories, of love, and that's something no market fluctuation can change. Don't be a crash test dummy. Picture this. You've waited years for a housing crash, finally it comes. But alas, you're not alone. A horde of eager buyers swoops in, snapping up properties like hotcakes. You're left in the dust, still clutching your deposit, with nary a house in sight. It's a comedy of missed opportunities, a tragicomic tale of waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Don't wait. Take control of your future and start your homeownership journey today. Don't wait for a crash. That's the golden nugget of wisdom we've unearthed today. Remember, a housing crash isn't a magic wand, and waiting for one could leave you watching from the sidelines. Instead, focus on being budget savvy, exploring options, and seeking professional advice. Market fluctuations are normal, but they shouldn't dictate your homeownership journey. Be proactive, take control, and remember, it's about long-term benefits, not short-term trends. So, let's all focus on building our financial strength.